They mattered. The families matter and matter to the city of New Orleans.
As those families come forward to talk about loved ones they lost, investigators are revealing more about what they are now calling a lone wolf attack on New Year's Day.
That tragedy in New Orleans brings to mind that something happened here in Austin. What city and state leaders are doing now to protect public places?
And we are tracking a couple of things, including a front arriving, Austin's first freeze, and the possible of wintry mix. We have that coming up in your first warning weather.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
Bourbon Street is bracing to reopen today after a deadly act of terror. A Texas man plowed through the area as people were celebrating the new year. Earlier today, we learned from the FBI the attack killed 14 people and injured at least 35 others. The Bureau says they do not believe anyone else is involved.
The FBI is also saying the man was from Houston and an Army veteran. Authorities also recovered 2 explosives devices from the suspect, and they say that he stated that he joined ISIS this summer. Agents have taken over the suspect's rental home in New Orleans now and are investigating a fire there that they say they believe started by some kind of remote detonation after that suspect's death. They say they found 3 phones and laptops from the suspect and are now reviewing his digital history. Authorities say Shamsuddin Jabbar drove a 3-block stretch mowing down people. He had weapons and an explosive with him along with an ISIS flag. He died in a shootout with police. Investigators say the 42-year-old was a U.S. Army veteran. According to 3 U.S. defense officials, Jabbar served in the Army from 2006 to 2015 and then went to the reserves from 2015 to 2020 when he was honorably discharged.
The mayor of New Orleans says physical barriers known as bollards normally block off this section of Bourbon Street, but were not working at the time of the attack as the system is currently being repaired. Investigators believe he drove around police cruisers that were stationed in their place. Now city officials say they're focused on clearing the scene and really connecting people with victim services.
Unprecedented amount of law enforcement resources that are being utilized to close out and to hunt down and to finalize this investigation. I want to thank the FBI and all of our federal partners for the amount of resources they have poured into the city. This type of event can happen in any city. And that's the tragedy of it. And I think it's important for people to understand that to protect our citizens in America from evil, you have to crush it.
As we mentioned, they are focused on reopening Bourbon Street as the Sugar Bowl football playoff game is set to continue later on today. We're also hearing from families of some of the victims who have come forward to identify their loved ones and tell their stories. On our website right now, you can read about the aspiring nurse, the single mother and the father of 2, and plus a former Princeton football star, all of those who lost their lives in this attack. You can read about them in this story on KXAN.com.
Also new today, the FBI says there is no definitive link between the attack in New Orleans and a Tesla Cybertruck that exploded in Las Vegas yesterday.
However, our media partners at News Nation reported earlier today, sources said the 2 drivers served at the same U.S. military base. Watch this surveillance video of the Cybertruck bursting into flames outside the Trump International Hotel. Police say the truck pulled up outside those glass entrance doors. The person inside the vehicle died. 7 people nearby suffered some minor injuries, and investigators say drone footage actually shows gas canisters and large firework mortars in the back of the truck. The FBI has called it a possible terror attack, earlier saying they believed it could be connected to New Orleans, but this morning we learned that they say there is no definitive connection there. Overnight, senior law enforcement sources confirmed the driver of this Cybertruck lived in Colorado Springs, Colorado. They did not identify that person by name.
President Joe Biden condemned the deadly terrorist attack in New Orleans, calling it despicable during remarks from Camp David. The president shared that the FBI believes the suspect posted ISIS-inspired videos before the attack. He urged for patience while the investigation is happening, and he also thanked first responders and law enforcement for their swift action.
I directed my team to make sure every resource is made available to federal, state, and local law enforcement to complete the investigation in New Orleans quickly and to make sure there is no remaining threat to the American people.
Las Vegas police say the pickup truck that plowed into the New Orleans crowd and the Tesla Cybertruck in the Las Vegas explosion were both rented from the same company, Turo. A spokesperson for the peer-to-peer car rental company sent KXAN a statement saying the company's heartbroken by the violence. But it went on to say, quote, "We do not believe that either renter involved in the Las Vegas or New Orleans attacks had a criminal background that would have identified them as a security threat." Now, this morning, investigators said they've received hundreds of tips from the New Orleans area, but also really from across the country. And they emphasized they are calling on people to come forward with any information. They set up a digital tip line, and they're asking anyone with information or really videos of the attack or the moments surrounding the attack to call 1-800-CALL-FBI. You can also send in any tips or those videos through an online form at fbi.gov. And we have linked to that. You can find that link on our website, KXAN.com.
First warning weather.
On this Thursday afternoon, we take a live look over Texas DKR Memorial Stadium there at the UT campus. What is shaping up to be a fairly nice day overall. We have some cloud coverage there. Temperatures, though, remaining in the 50s at this point. But Freddie, we have yet to see a freeze for this winter season. And it's been some time.
Yeah, it is not looking good for us. It looks like we're going to crack the top 3 out there. In fact, we already kind of have. Let's go ahead and take a look at the latest first freezes for Austin Camp Mabry. Remember, this is just for Camp Mabry. This doesn't include the Hill Country. We are seeing that we are now tied for 3rd place. But tomorrow we will overtake that 3rd place and make it our very own. But could we even break into 2nd place? And the answer is, yeah, it looks like it's going to happen like that. But I don't think we're going to make it to January 15th. I think that record is going to stay well far away, and that's good news. As we look at your 8 to 14-day temperature outlook, cooler than normal from January 9th to January 15th. And okay, I do have to admit, I am excited for the cooler weather. However, it is late in the season, and that's why, as meteorologists, we're kind of excited about some of the cooler weather settling in. But don't get me wrong, I like the beach weather too. In fact, this is a live look at our Govington Cellars camera in High, Texas, as we continue to see the dark clouds rolling through the majority of the area, and no rainfall just yet. I've been watching the radar pretty closely to see if we get anything, but if we do, it's just mostly going to be isolated showers here and there. Temperatures still in the mid-50s, as Will was just mentioning. 55 in Blanco, 60 degrees though in San Marcos. As we look at your winery forecast for the weekend, temperatures back up to around 75 degrees by Sunday. But then that's it. We're seeing a big drop after that. I'll talk about that coming up in your first warning weather.
Freddie, thank you. We do want to continue our coverage of that deadly terror attack in New Orleans. The city there confirmed safety barriers that normally protect Bourbon Street were under construction and not in place during the attack in the French Quarter.
Yeah, KXAN investigator Kelly Wiley follows a push in Austin and statewide for more safety bollards.
Barriers that could have prevented a Ford pickup truck from plowing into a crowd on Bourbon Street were missing at the time of the attack. Just in the last month, the city of New Orleans began replacing its wedge-shaped walls meant to block traffic. On this New Year's Eve, when Bourbon Street draws some of its largest crowds, city officials say they used police cars instead.
In this particular case, terrorists just went all the way around up onto the sidewalk.
Rob Ryder with the Storefront Safety Council says police cars as safety barriers are not effective.
A determined attacker can push the vehicle out of the way using, a low-speed crash.
A recent study from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency identified at least 51 vehicle attacks in the United States between 2000 and 2022. Including some where the vehicles held improvised explosive devices.
I've never seen those steel and force barricades put up in 7 years. They've never been up. If those were put in place to prevent accidents like this since 2017, why weren't they back in use?
In Texas, a state lawmaker filed a bill that would require crash-rated safety bollards outside most of the state's hospitals. It comes after a KXAN investigation into a deadly crash into an Austin emergency room. The reporting also resulting in the Austin City Council passing an ordinance requiring bollards outside new medical facilities.
Are you convinced that this will save lives?
Absolutely, this will save lives.
Councilmember Zoe Kadri told KXAN he would also like safety bollards in downtown Austin, citing a 2014 incident where a man drove into a crowd at South by Southwest, killing 2 people. Back in New Orleans, Governor Jeff Landry is vowing to fix gaps in safety around the French Quarter.
All right, look. We could go on what ifs forever. This is evil. Where there are defects in this system, we are going to be transparent, and we are going to address them with the city and make sure that we fill those gaps as best we can.
That is investigator Kelly Wiley reporting for us. Congressman Lloyd Doggett also took note of our investigation, and he's asked the General Services Administration to review all federally owned and leased buildings in the southwestern part of the United States, including Louisiana, amid what he calls an increased number of deaths and injuries from a lack of safety bollards.
We're coming up on 12:15 this afternoon. We have a live look as well over Austin, where clouds are hanging around today. Temperatures in the 50s at the moment, but we're going to tell you about some of the changes that might be in store in the days ahead with meteorologist Freddie Bella in a few moments. Now, as we kick off 2025, the Internal Revenue Service would like to remind you about its plans for the new year. That includes a check in the mail for some people. The agency says that some taxpayers did not claim a recovery rebate credit on their 2021 tax returns. It's now trying to give out about $2.4 billion. Meanwhile, if you're a small business owner or a freelancer, you'll notice tax reporting requirements finally change. The plan was initially approved years ago, and it will require businesses to report income from third-party payment apps if it exceeds $5,000 annually last year. That amount will drop to $2,500 in 2025, and by 2026, any income of $600 or more will need to be reported.
Lots to look ahead to in the new year. I don't think my brain has even gotten that far. I was just trying to get myself to work today.
That'll be another hurdle to climb at some point.
Let me circle back to that after a day or two of just recovering.
It feels so weird to already get back into, I guess, tax season and know that that's here, and it's something we got to deal with.
It's back yet again.
Okay, the other thing that the new year is bringing with it is these cooler temperatures. It's finally feeling like winter.
Yes, and you guys have probably seen all these things pop up on social media about, oh, this is happening and we're going to see this. But overall, it's still very far away. Take a look. This is what we do know, is that we're going to see a departure from normal. And that means that as of now, it is warmer than normal. But as we get to next Wednesday, we're going to be much, much, much cooler than normal. And normal around this time of year is 61. We're going to be well colder than that. But there's still some disagreement on exactly what we're going to see with this cooler weather as that filters in. Let's show you the GFS model. This one's saying we're going to see some wintry mix put in there. I'm not saying any words of what it could be. I'm just going to say wintry mix, because that is going to be a possibility here. And the amount, or what we could see, that's still up for debate at this point, and the GFS model has that for Wednesday going into Thursday. All right, now I'm going to show you our European model. This one has different numbers in there, so obviously it's going to give you something a bit different. And as we get out towards Wednesday, not very much. In fact, maybe a little out towards the hill country, and that's pretty much it. Everything stays pretty far towards the north. And then it's all said and done by Wednesday afternoon. So this is what we do know. We have high confidence that we're going to be seeing some freezing nights. That we know is happening. We're going to have cold days with temperatures in the 40s. But this is not going to be a repeat of 2021. I can promise you that. Here's what we have low confidence in: the wintry mix and what we actually see coming out of it. One, because it depends on if we're going to tap into all that moisture that would give us that wintry mix, whatever it may be. But two, it also depends on how cold it gets and how long it's cold, and where that wintry mix is, where it is in the elevation. There's a lot going into that. So All for now is we'll say we expect something for next Wednesday, but as the day gets closer, we'll have a better idea and a better understanding. We do have cloud coverage right now with temperatures still in the mid-50s for pretty much everyone at this point. Cedar and mold still in the medium category with a downward trend on cedar and upward trend on mold. But for today going into tomorrow, clouds, that's all we're going to see. Maybe a couple little sprinkles here and there for tonight going into tomorrow, but that's pretty much it. It's not until we get to Sunday that we expect that next front to fly through, and then that's what's going to help drive in all of this cold air that we're going to see within the area. So enjoy your weekend. 72 on Saturday, 75 as we get out towards Sunday. You notice we'll stay in the 60s for today and tomorrow, 70s as we get Saturday and Sunday. The front comes in, that's going to drive down temperatures once again, and then that's when we get to that Wednesday wintry mix.
When the new year arrived here in Texas, something familiar ended. Now we are no longer required to get a vehicle safety inspection. Instead, car owners in the state will just have to pay a fee each year.
We want to talk more about this now with Daniel Armbruster with AAA Texas. Daniel, thanks for being here. It's nice to see you, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Will and Avery.
Yeah, we mentioned there that there will not be a fee. Well, there will still be a fee, we should say, for vehicle owners in lieu of that annual safety inspection. Talk to us about how much that will be and where people might be able to go to pay that.
Yeah, so there will be a $7.50 fee that will go towards what inspection fees covered. So simply that could be like highway construction, expansion, etc. Now you can go to the Texas DMV website to renew your registration and pay that fee. You can also go to AAA Texas branch offices in the Austin and Round Rock area to renew your registration and pay that fee. But certainly, you know, there will still be also a process in place for residents in Travis and Williamson counties that deals with emissions testing. You will still have to have your emissions system tested to make sure that that passes. But the overall inspection of the vehicle, the horn, the lights, etc., that is going away or is now gone.
So what does this mean for people who may be driving a new car here in Texas?
So you will still have to get a 2-year registration fee paid, and that's about $16. But you will not have to have your vehicle inspected on an annual basis any further, unless you live in one of the larger metro areas. The emissions system will still need to be tested.
Daniel, even though an annual vehicle inspection is no longer mandatory, what would you still recommend for drivers to do each year?
It's really important that you follow your vehicle's owner's manual and look at how often maintenance is required. You know, some vehicles are, say, every 5,000 miles or every 6 months. Just read your vehicle owner's manual. Make sure that you're following that. Some of the top roadside mechanical issues we see at AAA Texas when it comes to roadside emergencies are, for instance, flat tires, dead batteries, engine problems. If your check engine light's on, if your tires are worn, they no longer are suitable to drive on, you know, those are things you obviously want to take care of immediately. AAA does have a free community program called Approved Auto Repair. You can go to AAA.com and find a local trusted mechanic in your area that's been vetted by AAA to go to that trusted mechanic for any of your automotive needs. But certainly it's important to find that trusted mechanic and continue to have your vehicle routinely looked at just as prescribed in your vehicle owner's manual.
So you mentioned some cars are still required to get those annual emissions inspections. So talk about that. I think that might be where it gets confusing for drivers. Who do those still apply to, and how will that work?
Yeah, so there's 17 counties in the state of Texas that still will require the emission system to be tested. And that includes Travis and Williamson County. So that will affect many people in Central Texas. And what that does is it tests the emission system to make sure that the right amount of exhaust is coming from your vehicle. It's not polluting the air, and it's there to protect the air quality so that we all breathe safer and healthier air.
And if you're wondering about more information on some of these things, we have a breakdown on KXAN.com. But for now, Daniel Armbruster with AAA Texas, we appreciate you being here as always. Thanks again.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
Bourbon Street is bracing to reopen after a deadly act of terror. A Texas man plowed through the area as people were celebrating the new year. Earlier today, we learned from the FBI the attack killed 14 people and injured at least 35 others. The Bureau says they do not believe anyone else is involved in the attack.
The FBI shared that the man was from Houston and an Army veteran. Authorities say they also discovered 2 explosive devices from the suspect. Investigators say he stated that he joined ISIS this summer. Agents have taken over the suspect's rental home in New Orleans and are now investigating a fire that happened there. And they believe that that started by some kind of remote detonation after the suspect's death. They also say they found 3 phones and laptops from the suspect and are now reviewing his digital history. Authorities say that Shamsuddin Jabbar drove a 3-block stretch of Bourbon Street, mowing down people. He had weapons and an explosive with him, along with an ISIS flag. He died in a shootout with police. Investigators say the 42-year-old was a U.S. Army veteran, and according to 3 U.S. defense officials, he served in the Army from 2006 to 2015, and then in the Army Reserves from 2015 to 2020, when he was honorably discharged.
The mayor of New Orleans says physical barriers known as bollards normally block off this section of Bourbon Street, but were not working as the system is currently being repaired. Investigators say he was able to drive around police cruisers that were stationed there in their place. Right now, city officials say they are focused on clearing the scene and connecting people with victim services.
Unprecedented amount of law enforcement resources that are being utilized to close out and to hunt down and to finalize this investigation. I want to thank the FBI and all of our federal partners for the amount of resources they have poured into the city. This type of event can happen in any city. And that's the tragedy of it. And I think it's important for people to understand that to protect our citizens in America from evil, you have to crush it.
Officials in that press conference revealed that Bourbon Street had been given control back to the city of New Orleans, and the city officials were working to clear that scene, working to identify all of the victims. Those victims, all 14 of them, have not been officially identified yet, but families of some of them have begun to come forward and tell their stories. On our website right now, you can read about the aspiring nurse, the single mother, the father of 2, and the former Princeton football star, just a few of those who lost their lives in this attack. You can read their stories on KXAN.com.
During an update earlier today, the FBI also said there is no definitive link between the attack in New Orleans and a Tesla Cybertruck that exploded in Las Vegas yesterday.
This is a departure from some previous reporting, some from our media partners at News Nation. They said sources say the 2 drivers in these 2 attacks actually served at the same military base. But earlier today, we heard from the FBI. They, again, as Will said, no definitive link. You can see this surveillance video is of that Cybertruck bursting into flames outside the Trump International Hotel. Police say that truck pulled up right outside those glass entrance doors. The person inside the Cybertruck died. Several people nearby also suffered some minor injuries here. Investigators say drone footage shows gas canisters and large firework mortars inside the back of that truck. The FBI has called it a possible terror attack. Overnight, senior law enforcement sources confirmed the driver of this Cybertruck lived in Colorado Springs, Colorado. They have not identified that person by name. Investigators say they have received hundreds of tips out of New Orleans, but also from across the country. And in the press conference this morning, they emphasized they do really want people with information to come forward. They have set up a digital tip line to try to make it easy, and they're asking anyone with information or particularly videos of the attack or of the hours surrounding it to call 1-800-CALL-FBI. They are saying you can also send in tips through that online form at fbi.gov, and we have linked to that form on our website, KXAN.com.
The terror attack in New Orleans has also brought renewed focus on keeping you safe while walking around here in Austin.
Over the last year, city leaders here in Austin have floated some proposals to change some of our most popular streets that have that heavy pedestrian traffic. Barrett Tryon took a look at some of the most recent proposals, including reopening a chunk of 6th Street and closing parts of Congress Avenue.
Austin has looked at changes to some of its busiest streets in recent months. That includes 6th Street.
I think keeping it closed is probably for the best.
Jeffrey Lee works at the Dizzy Rooster. He sees firsthand what happens along the busy bar-lined street.
Just upping the security if that's the main issue or whatever, but you know, having the few posts they keep it pretty safe.
Right now, police close the road from Red River to Congress Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights and for special events. A new pilot program will keep that stretch open to cars all the time as a test run before South by Southwest in March. But the city has yet to say exactly when that might happen. On nearby Congress Avenue, the city is expected to release a report shortly on a $130 million plan to revamp it. Areas from Riverside to 11th would get upgrades. And the city is eyeing a potential pedestrian-only plaza on Congress between 7th and 11th Streets. Officials say the main goal is to make Congress Avenue the main street of Texas as it leads to the Capitol. Not everyone is for that plan, including some downtown residents.
The more that you do to restrict the avenues in which you can get around, the more it dissuades people to want to come here.
That's our Barrett Tryon reporting. Councilman Zoe Caudry oversees downtown as part of his district. His office told KXAN that because of what happened in New Orleans, the proposed street changes are expected to be a topic of discussion at the very first council meeting of the new year. That'll take place on January 30th.
First warning weather.
We are turning now to a look outside over my favorite view, DKR, Texas Memorial Stadium, especially after a Texas win. But I'll say as we head into the new year, what I was not prepared for is Freddie's weather forecast.
Oh. Yeah. It was nice to see those temperatures dip after such a warm stretch that we had for quite a long time.
Yeah, and we're going to see temperatures dip even more, but we have to look back at the past really quickly, only for a bit though, because I do want to talk about the hottest Decembers, and unfortunately we came in second within the hottest December since they started keeping records out of Camp Mabry. 59.6 degrees is where we hit with 2024, just shy, well not just shy, we're actually much cooler than what happened back in 2021, but the year as total, that unfortunately, we did unfortunately make it to number one, 72.7 degrees compared to number two, which was in 2023 at 72.2. And notice all of these within the past, I'd say 13 years, or within the top 5. Our year average, let me try that again. Our 30-year average is actually 70 degrees, and you can see the top 5 have been well above that, and like I mentioned before, from 2010 to now overall. So rain as well, when you look at where we should be to where we were, that's an 8-inch difference from where we should be overall. So again, lack of rainfall, lack of cooler air, and now we have to wait at least another week until we see our first freeze. As we look at Central Austin through our Western Homes camera, cloud conditions are dominating the area. 57 in Austin, 60 degrees in San Marcos, Fredericksburg at 57, Georgetown at 56, and Bastrop at 59 degrees. The cloudy conditions expected to remain throughout the day and into the evening hours as well. But these temperatures, very soon, they're going to go thanks to a cold front. And could we see a wintry mix with that as well? I'll have that coming up in your first warning weather.
Freddie, thank you. A new legislative session begins at the Texas Capitol in less than 2 weeks.
And already Texas lawmakers there have filed thousands of bills. However, based on history, only about 15% of them will actually get passed. Texas Democrats said that they'll work toward addressing affordability issues in the state, while Republican leadership has made it clear that a top priority is school choice. After years of it failing to pass in the Texas House, Governor Greg Abbott says he now believes there are enough votes to finally pass that this year.
We have technically 11 items that we are going to be focused on during the session, and it starts with the border security, election integrity, all the way down to property tax reform.
They want Republicans and Democrats to come together and figure out how to lower costs and make it affordable to live in this state once again.
The 89th Texas regular legislative session begins Tuesday, January 14th. The last day of session is June 2nd.
Going in depth, the vote for Texas House Speaker will be the first thing lawmakers need to hammer out when that session begins. Right now, no one knows who will sit in that seat next. Current Speaker Dade Phelan withdrew from the race back in December. The race appears to be down to Representative David Cook from Mansfield and Representative Dustin Burrows from Lubbock. Cook has the support of most House Republicans. Burrows claims with support from Democrats, he has the 76 votes needed. Both have different methods of gaining support, and political attack ads and text messages have begun airing across Texas, trying to sway lawmakers to vote one way or another. That vote will happen on the first day of session. Turning to Washington, a new Congress is preparing to take over tomorrow. There, the first order of business will also be electing a House Speaker.
Some parallels to Texas there. Republican Mike Johnson has the job right now and got Donald Trump's endorsement. However, he will need nearly every single Republican vote to hold on to the gavel. And NBC's Garrett Hake reports Johnson is already facing some skepticism.
As a new Congress arrives in Washington tomorrow, House Republicans are hoping to avoid the embarrassing spectacle that began the last Congress.
A speaker has not been elected.
When it took 15 votes over 4 days to elect Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker.
Is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Now it's Speaker Mike Johnson scrambling to lock down his own party's support after he replaced McCarthy, who was eventually ousted by fellow Republicans. Johnson spent much of his tenure relying on Democrats to help pass key bills as the narrow Republican majority squabbled over spending and how to approach issues like the war in Ukraine.
I remain undecided, as do a number of my colleagues, because we saw so many of the failures last year.
With an even smaller majority in this Congress, if all Democrats stick together and support their leader Hakeem Jeffries on Friday, Johnson can only afford to lose just one GOP vote and still win the gavel. President-elect Trump, who seemed cool on Johnson after last month's government funding battle, offering him his, quote, complete and total endorsement on Monday, praising him at Mar-a-Lago on New Year's Eve.
We're going to get a successful vote. He's a good man. He's a wonderful person, and that's what you need.
I'm really humbled and honored to have President Trump's endorsement for Speaker again. He and I work so well together, so closely together, and we have a lot of big things to do.
But Trump's endorsement hasn't swayed Kentucky's Thomas Massie, currently the only Republican to publicly vow to vote against Johnson. Massie writing on X that Johnson, quote, won't tell the president what is achievable and what is not achievable in the House, and suggesting Johnson lacks the situational awareness to know what can pass. Indiana's Victoria Spart's concern with Johnson is simpler.
He doesn't have any trust, and I don't trust him.
We are looking live outside from our Bee Cave camera here. You can see a bit of a cloudy day here. Not a lot of sun peeking through from this view at least. Freddie is tracking our temperatures and has more in our full forecast on what we can expect as we round out the week and begin a new year. Travel companies are seeing a rising trend in women solo traveling. Travel surveys show nearly 40% of women travelers are planning or thinking about planning independent trips in 2025. That's going to take some getting used to saying that, 2025. So this is a slight increase from last year. Because of this rising trend, though, travel companies are providing safer options for female travelers, such as solo cabins on cruises and nature trips designed for older women. So lots to explore there.
Yeah, there have been some women in my life who've actually done that, and it's really amazing to see that. They said it was so much fun,
yes,
and they didn't feel unsafe, and they had a great time.
A family member of mine went hiking in Peru recently.
Oh, wow.
And she said it was incredible. She had amazing guides who were saying the same thing, that lots more women were taking that trip on their own.
That's good. You know,
yeah.
This is the new year to try out new things, so maybe this is something a lot of people might want to try out.
Yeah.
Something I am ready for as well is some cooler weather. Take a look at the big drop that we're going to see from Sunday to Tuesday. 75 to 48 degrees. That's a pretty big drop that we're going to see overall. So you may want to start going through your winter clothes if you haven't just yet, because we're finally going to see some freezing conditions in Camp Mabry. And Tuesday morning, look at this. We're all going to be below 30 degrees on Tuesday morning. Remember, the front gets here late Sunday going into Monday. So Monday we'll still see a drop. It's just that Tuesday, that's when all the cold air really pushes through, and we'll see the temperatures really go down. 28 for pretty much everyone, 29 in Austin, 27 as you get out towards Dripping Springs. I did mention that Austin would be at 48 degrees as a high for Tuesday, probably for Wednesday as well. I don't see that changing very much either. So just a reminder, in case you're going to be trying to stay warm, here's some winter fire safety tips. Turn off all portable heaters when you're asleep. Keep any flammable objects at least 3 feet away from heat sources. Make sure that you're checking your fireplace now, your chimneys as well. Use any metal or heat-tempered glass screens with the fireplace. Never use an extension cord for a heater, and make sure that your smoke detector is working as well. Just in case something happens, we want you to be safe out there. And here's your look at your satellite and radar at this time. Cloudy conditions for pretty much everyone. We zoom out a bit more. There is some rain, essentially from right around Corpus Christi down towards the Gulf of Mexico. It doesn't look like any of that's making its way into the Rio Grande Valley or towards Kingsville. As we look out towards the next 24 hours here, pretty much just cloud coverage. That's it. Maybe a few isolated showers here and there, a little bit of sprinkles, but that's pretty much it. Drizzle overall. I don't expect anything massive to really pop up, so we're still giving it about a 10% chance of rain. Tonight, 49 degrees, winds coming in from the southeast. That's light, and then we're going to be watching for next week, because that's when the big change will happen. So I've been showing you a couple of different models. This is our GFS model. This one holding on to the wintry mix. I don't think it's going to be this pronounced, but we still have some time. So I'm going to continue watching that, and of course we'll give you an update online, or of course right here on KXAN. Here's a look at your 7-day forecast. 65 for today, 67 for tomorrow, 72 as we get out towards Saturday and Sunday, and then the front comes in, and then the drop happens. 51 on Monday, 48 on Tuesday. And look at those lows, 33, 29, 30. You're going to need a jacket for the next few days.
Yesterday marked the 8th and final day of Hanukkah. In Buda, it lit its menorah in its 4th annual celebration there in the city. Anybody could attend. We're showing you some scenes from that here with music, food, and all the festivities. The lighting falling on New Year's Day, according to many, makes it all the more special.
More love, more light, all together, just sharing in this community event. Not many faiths coming together to just join hands and celebrate.
A beautiful message there. Okay, Hanukkah in 2025 will run from December 14th through the 22nd.
It's so pretty seeing the menorah lit there with the sunset. Very nice. Well, many places have their own New Year's traditions. Here in Texas and maybe a few other states too, that tradition involves eating black-eyed peas during meals. For many generations, the beans are said to bring wealth into the coming year. Bring that on to me. They are often paired with greens like collards or even cabbage and cornbread. There are many origins for the black-eyed peas tradition, with one story tracing it all the way back to the Civil War. However, no matter its lengthy history, they are still going strong, linking Texans and others across the U.S. to their cultural roots every New Year. I must say that my dinner last night included black-eyed peas and cabbage and carrots. Yes, this was all courtesy of my in-laws who were so wonderful to make that. It tasted great, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it will bring all the other things it's supposed to.
Brings that wealth and luck.
So, I mean, so that is something you've done before?
Yeah, I'm from Arkansas as well. My parents would always make that on the New Year. They would even make like corned beef. That was a part of it too.
That goes with the black-eyed peas. We've done that before. My mom makes this amazing black-eyed peas salsa. Yeah. It's a little Tex-Mex version of it. It's very good.
Weird. No, so for me it was grapes. You eat the 12 grapes at midnight.
Under the table.
Under the table. So that's what my family would do. I've never heard of this black-eyed peas thing. I'm very interested.
Okay.
Well, maybe I'll do that for next year. But that's still 364 days away. Let's go and take a look at what we can expect over the next 7 days. 65 for today. today, 67 for tomorrow, 72 as we get out towards Saturday. And then that front comes in and much, much colder weather arrives Monday into Tuesday into Wednesday as we look for our first freeze for Cat Mabry.
Already getting us ready for that. Thanks so much, Freddie. And thank you all for watching this afternoon. We'll see you back here in about 30 minutes with another update. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Take care.